Good morning.
And welcome everyone.
Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Nicole B. Cabanaglan,
And I am Mr. James Gabriel Baldo.
and we are your moderators for this day.
Before we proceed further this morning, I would like to invite ladies and gentlemen to stand up for the singing of the Philippine National Anthem. Let us all remain standing as we will pray that we will be led by Miss Rosabel Viador.
Let's bow our head and feel the presence of the Lord. Dear God, thank you for your amazing power and work in our lives. Thank you for your goodness and blessing over us. Thank you for your great love and care. Forgive us when we don't thank you enough for who you are, for all that you do, for all that you've given. Help us to set our eyes and our heart on you afresh. Renew our spirits, fill us with peace and joy. We give you praise and thanks, for you alone are worthy. In Jesus' name, we pray, Amen.
Inspirational quotes and messages are essential and good for everybody, especially if you're going to hear it or read it early in the morning. This can be a words of wisdom that will encourage everybody to start a new day or a new morning that with full of hope, love, passion, and enthusiasm. That is why I would like to introduce to you Miss Celine Benosa to give us a inspirational quotes or messages for this morning.
Good morning, educators and future educators. I am Celine Benosa, one of the aspiring teachers in this event. As we celebrate the Teacher's Day, I will give you a quotation that says, "Teaching is the profession that creates all other professions." Other people say that when you are a teacher, you are entitled as teacher lang. But little do they know, without teachers, there will be no architects, engineers, nurses, doctors, lawyers. Because the role of a teacher is not just to impart knowledge on the students, but to mold them as a whole being. They serve as inspiration for every learner. Never allow others' discrimination on your profession to stop you from dreaming. Keep going and let your success speak for you.
Way back in the days gone by, our school was just a simple one. Now we cruise to greater heights, with a symbol that will ever shine. We give a toast to Mentor Zeal, who was to make the NEUST. Oh, here is the country's pride, the NEUST. He strives through all the years, let's forever be loyal and true. Oh, here is the nation's call, for better you tomorrow. Hail to dear alma mater, let us all work with a might. Keep achieving for the glory of the Levicia University of Science and Technology. Oh, here is the country's Here is the nation's call for better years tomorrow. Hail to dear on the latter. Let us all work with our might. Keep achieving for the glory of the MICA University of Science and Technology.
Hey, my holy excuse me. Hey, can you feel that this day is not just wonderful, but a day of full of new learnings and experiences?
Yes, I agree on that, partner, because right now, I feel your presence that you are very glad and excited, and I'm very excited too. How about you, and how are you, partner?
I am very good and I'm very excited because I'm looking forward for this webinar because you know that our beloved audiences and even the future educators will have a new knowledge about this topic. How about you? I think our topic is all about the curriculum. What is your insight about it?
I have a little insight about curriculum, partner. I think curriculum can help the student and guide the student to become a successful human being someday.
Today, we are presenting the Unit 2 Curriculum Planning, Design, and Organization webinar. Let's Educate Our Mind 2020. Once again, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. We appreciate you taking time of your busy schedules just to be with us. And just for a little housekeeping before we get started, if you have any questions during the presentation, please do not hesitate to type them up into the comment box. Then I will bring them up to our source speakers for clarification. Now that we are all geared up for our webinar today, without further ado, we will turn the time over to Mr. Rex Arjual, graduated at Santo Rosario National High School and a former Student Council President and received a Jerry Lopez Leadership Excellence Award, and Mr. Dave Hassan, graduated at ACLC College of Copan, a former volleyball player and a currently member of the NEST Chorale. Our first resource speakers that will educate us about the elements of curriculum.
Greetings of peace and a pleasant morning to everyone. Before we start, let's begin our day with a roll call. I know majority of you are already familiar with this, so let's start. Magandang buhay, mabuting tao, magandang buhay. Our webinar topic for this morning is all about elements of curriculum design. There are still lots of questions and confusions about what is curriculum. What is curriculum exactly? What is curriculum design and planning? And what are the elements needed to create, make, and establish a curriculum that will fit to our educational society's existing needs? Those are the questions that are still vague to our minds. I hope that at the end of this webinar, this will lead us to proper understanding about how curriculum plays a vital role in our education. Before our proper discussion starts, if you have some initial concerns, you may put your message in the comment box below. Let's start. Curriculum is a sequence of potential experiences set up in school for the purpose of disciplining the children and the youth in a group ways of thinking and acting skills. Curriculum also is the what of teaching. As we tackled before, curriculum is divided and classified into 10 types, which includes the recommended curriculum, the second, the written curriculum, third, the taught curriculum, the fourth, the supported curriculum, 5, the assessed curriculum, 6, the learned curriculum, the 7, the hidden curriculum, number 8, the concomitant curriculum, number 9, the phantom curriculum, and number 10, the null curriculum. What is the difference between curriculum and curriculum designing and planning? Curriculum refers to a lesson or academic content taught in school or in a specific course or program. It includes a specification of what should be learned and how should be taught, and the plan for assessing and evaluating the learning. While the curriculum design is the planning period when instructors organize the instructional units for their course. Curriculum design involves planning activities, readings, lesson, and assessment that achieve educational goals. Now, let's proceed to our main topic and main highlight, which is the elements of curriculum design. There are four major components or elements of a curriculum, and the curriculum design reflects the nature and organization of these elements. These elements are behavioral or intended learning outcomes, content subject matter, references, teaching and learning methods, and assessment and evaluation. Curriculum aims, goals, and objectives are the starting point in curriculum development. It serves as the compass that gives direction for curriculum experts in the conceptualization of the curriculum. There are types of aims and various approaches which is used in education based on the level of curriculum complexity. Like for example, the aims of elementary education is different from the aims of senior high school and tertiary education. But as a college student, we pay more attention on the aims of tertiary education. The aims of tertiary education helps to, number one, provide general education programs which will promote national identity, cultural consciousness, moral integrity, and spiritual vigor. Number two, train the national manpower in the skill required for national development. Number three, develop professions that will provide leadership for the nation. And number four, advance knowledge through research and apply new knowledge for improving the quality of human life and respond effectively to the changing society. To understand the principle of behavioral objectives or intended learning outcomes, let's apply the NUST vision and mission. NUST vision. NUST is a locally responsive and internationally relevant and recognized university of science and technology. NUST mission: to develop new knowledge and technologies and transform human resources into productive citizenry to bring about developmental impact to local and international communities. From the given examples, take note that the formulation of behavioral objectives or intended learning outcomes for a specific subject is derived from the institution's mission and vision, as well as the college goals and program outcomes. In the classroom context, the designing curriculum is designing instruction. In this case, teachers should begin with an end in mind. The behavioral objectives or intended learning outcomes derived from the curriculum aims, goals, and objectives will provide teacher and students with a clear understanding of what they are intended to accomplish after learning episodes. Now, let's move to the second part or second element, curriculum design, the content or subject matter. A curriculum will not be complete without this element. Curriculum content or subject matter refers to the body of knowledge that needs to be taught and skill to be acquired by the learners. Curriculum content takes many forms. To some, this refers to knowledge or compendium of facts, concepts, generalizations, principles, and theories. Curriculum is also a subject-centered view of curriculum. The fund of human knowledge represents the repository of accumulated discoveries and inventions of man down the centuries due to man's exploration. In selecting content, we must consider the following. Number one, subject matter should be relevant to the outcomes of the curriculum. An effective curriculum is purposive and focused on the planned learning outcomes. Number two, subject matter should be appropriate to the level of the lesson or unit. An effective curriculum is progressive, leading students towards building on previous lessons. Last, number three, subject matter should be up to date and, if possible, should reflect current knowledge and concepts. Now, let's proceed to the criteria in the selection of learning content. In selecting developmentally appropriate and valid content, teacher must be considered and must be guided by the following criteria. First, self-sufficiency. Thus, it helps the learner to attain maximum self-sufficiency in learning but in the most economical manner. For example, self-learning modules will lead students to learn on their own and at their own pace. Number 2, significance. Thus, it contributes to the development of learning abilities. In selecting content, we must consider the following. Number 1, subject matter should be relevant to the outcomes of the curriculum. An effective curriculum is purposive and focused on the planned learning outcomes. Number 2, subject matter should be appropriate to the level of the lesson or unit. An effective curriculum is progressive, leading students towards building on previous lessons. Last, number 3, subject matter should be up to date and if possible, should reflect current knowledge and concepts. Now, let's proceed to the criteria in the selection of learning content. In selecting developmentally appropriate and valid content, teacher must be considered and must be guided by the following criteria. First, self-sufficiency. Thus, it helps the learner to attain maximum self-sufficiency in learning but in the most economical manner. For example, self-learning modules will lead students to learn on their own and at their own pace. Number 2, significance. Thus, it contributes to the development of learning abilities, skills, processes, and attitude of the learner. Number 3, validity. Is the subject matter authentic or it is already obsolete? Number 4, interest. Is it meaningful to the learners? Just take note that the content is interesting if it is meaningful to the learners. Number 5, utility. Will it add meaning to the learner's life or will it develop their human potentials? Number 6, learnability. Is it within the learning range of the experiences of the learners? Let us consider the grade level and developmental level of our students. Number 7, feasibility. Can the subject matter be learned within the time allowed? Resources available, the expertise of the teacher, and the nature of the learner. Let us be realistic in including content to be taught to our class.
Once again, hello and good day to everybody. This is Dave Hawson, still welcoming you to this free webinar, and I do hope that each one of you is learning and at the same time having fun just by simply watching in the comfort of your own home. Okay, a while ago, Mr. Sarjual discussed the first two elements of curriculum design. He also introduced to you the criteria in the selection of the learning content. This time, I would like to present to you the contents in the continuation of today's session. So we have here the principles in the organization of learning content by Bilbao et al. 2015, and the last three remaining elements of curriculum design, which are the references, teaching and learning methods, and assessment and evaluation. And later on, we will discuss all of that. So without any further delay, let's begin. Principles in organization of the learning content. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines organization as an act or process of putting the parts of something in a certain order for them to be easily found. But in the case of curriculum designing, content is organized to ensure the ease and efficiency of the learning in the part of the students. So now, what are the principles or the things that we need to consider to have an effective organization of the content? The first one is balance. When we say the word balance, it refers to the equitable and fair distribution of content among different levels of instruction, considering the total number of units, the time allotment that is needed to consider in the content of a subject area. Dito, ina-advise yung mga teacher na i-distribute yung content per grading when it comes to elementary and high school, and in tertiary level naman per term. Okay, number 2, articulation. Articulation is the provision of the vertical linkages from level to level. The content learned from previous grades will help the students to learn the contents from the next grade or year level. Number 3 is sequence. Sequence talks about the arrangement of the contents. Pagka sinabi natin na lower grade level, dapat less difficult yung mga contents. And while the higher year level, dapat doon na papasok yung more difficult or complex ones. Number 4, integration. Integration blends the curriculum content of a several subject into a related subject to prevent compartmentalization. And lastly, number 5 is continuity. In this principle, I would like to emphasize the spiral curriculum of Brunner, because this curriculum, in this curriculum, there is a repetition and review or reinforcement of learning that is happening. Now we are on the third element of curriculum, which is the references. After the content, the reference will follow. This tells where the content or a particular subject matter has been taken. This can be a book, a module, articles, or journals. But we should be mindful in obtaining information in the internet. Dapat doon tayo sa legit na sites at sources. And we should also properly cite sources to avoid certain issues like plagiarism. So we have here some examples of citation in APA format. In citing a book, you need to include the author, the year of publication, the title of the book, chapter, the page where you get the information, and most importantly, if it is taken from the internet, the link should be included. Same thing with citing a website or citing a web page. We will proceed to the fourth element of curriculum design, which is the teaching and learning methods. Curriculum experiences are the heart and the core of the curriculum. Curriculum should provide physical, mental, emotional experiences or other integration to the students. Pero si teacher has an academic freedom, so therefore, nasa sa kanya kung paano yung strategies and techniques niya sa pagde-deliver ng instruction. According to Bilbao et al. 2015, the teaching and learning methods should allow cooperation, competition, as well as individualism or independent learning among our students. So, merong sinuggest si Bilbao na examples. The first example is cooperative learning activities. This will allow the students to work together to find solutions to a certain problem, but syempre with the guidance of the teacher. This can be a role playing or group sharing activity. Number two is independent learning activities. These activities will enhance the self or personal responsibility of the student, as well as his or her ability to learn independently. Number three is competitive activities. These activities must be in a healthy competition, because these activities will engage the students to perform in their maximum. Activities can be games such as puzzles or charades, something like that. We are now on the last element of curriculum design, which is the assessment and evaluation. Stoffel B. 1991, as cited by Reyes et al. 2015, defined curriculum evaluation as the formal determination of the quality, effectiveness, or value of the program, process, or product of the curriculum, either be quantitative or qualitative. Or Ornstein and Hanskins 1998, as cited by Reyes et al. 2015, stated that evaluation may be undertaken to gather data and relevant information that would assist educators in deciding whether to accept, change, or eliminate the curriculum in general or educational material in particular. So we need to evaluate curriculum para malaman natin kung may mga i-develop pa ba or may mga aalisin doon sa curriculum na yon, kung effective ba siya. And the table as shown, Table 6, the 6 steps are suggested for curriculum evaluation for all the stages in the CIPP model of curriculum evaluations. So this is the suggested model in evaluating curriculum. This is the CIPP model. Another suggested curriculum evaluation process by Bilbao et al. 2015. This is the simple way. You just need to answer all those questions, and kapag merong hindi nasagot na question, that indicates that there is a need for a serious curriculum evaluation process. Another suggestion in curriculum evaluation, as shown in the PowerPoint. So why do we need to assess? Syempre, assessment in our field is vital. This is to know the strengths and the weaknesses of your students. This will also give you information if the target or the intended learning outcomes and objectives are that you set are met. So we have here that three interrelated concepts, and they have their distinct differences. The first one is assessment for learning, also known as the formative assessment. This provides information on the gaps or the needs of the students. This also measures their progress, and this by asking how or what does the student learn so far. This can be done by giving them quiz, or it also includes pre-test and post-test. Number 2 is assessment as learning, also known as the reflective learning. This emphasizes metacognition, or the ability of the students to measure their own learning. This may also be called as self-assessment or self-reflection. Number 3 is assessment of learning, or the summative assessment. This is usually given at the end of a course or unit, and the teacher will give a mark or grade. The best example of this is the midterm examination and the final examination. So, before we end things up, I just want you to know that ano pa man, the fundamental reason and the primary or ultimate goal of planning, designing, and organizing curriculum is to ensure that the students will acquire quality education.
Thank you, Mr. Rexer Joal and Mr. Dave Hasson, for the fresh and informative topic. And now, I am proudly introducing to you our second resource speaker that will teach us about the approaches and types of curriculum design. She is a consistent honor student, member of the dance group Tuklas, and graduated in the Julia Ortiz National High School. She is Miss Rochelle May Contreras.
Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Rochelle May Contreras. I am one of your resources speaker. I am here in order to educate your mind about approaches and types to curriculum design. There are 3 types of curriculum design models. These are the subject-centered design, learner-centered design, and problem-centered design. The first curriculum design model is the subject-centered design. When we say subject-centered design, it revolves around a particular subject matter or discipline. This type of curriculum design tends to focus on the subject rather than the individual. In addition, it describes the needs to be studied and how it should be studied. Example of subject-centered design is in large college classes, in which teachers focus on a particular subject or discipline. Subject-centered design can lead to problems with students' engagement and motivation and may cause students who are not responsive to this model to fall behind. There are 4 subtypes when it comes to subject-centered design. First is subject design. It focuses on the cluster content. However, there is an obstacle in this design because when it comes to learning, it is divided into separate parts of the sections of the subject or content. It emphasizes the contents that can be caused of forgetting the natural tendencies, interests, and experiences of the student. Second is the discipline design. It focuses on the academic discipline. The discipline design clarifies the relationship between the beginning knowledge and the advanced knowledge. This allows the students to gain meaning and advance through the content. Third is correlation design. Focuses on the relationship between the separate subjects designed to lessen the separating parts of the subject. Lastly is the broad field design, which is also known as interdisciplinary design. It is focused on the combining of the contents. This design is the way to avoid or depart from the compartmentalization of the subjects. And now let's talk about the other types of curriculum design model, which is the learner-centered design. It takes each individual's needs, interests, and goals into consideration. In other words, it acknowledges that the students are not uniform and adjusts to those students' needs. Learner-centered design is meant to empower learners and allow them to shape their education through choices. In addition, it requires that the teachers balance students' wants and interests with the students' needs and required outcomes, which is not easy balance to implement. There are 3 subtypes when it comes to learner-centered design. First is child-centered design, which encourages children to take learning in their own hands and taking responsibility for making choices about what will learn and explore. For example, some activities include open debates and written reflections in learning. Second is experience-centered design, which is about the students' live and felt experience as it is sometimes mediated by technology. In addition, it is about how to design for the richness of experience that these new technologies offer. In conclusion, it is the children's concern are the basis for organizing children's school world. Third is humanistic design, which models human behavior and intelligences to carry out the everyday tasks that typically fall on us, and it is emphasizes human potential, empowering students by actively involving the students in their own growth. The last type of curriculum design model is the problem-centered design, which is instruct students to look at a problem or situation and figure out a way to solve it. The teachers expect students to use their own real-life experience to determine an answer. There are two types of problem-centered design. First is life situation design, which uses the past and present experiences of the learners as means to analyze the basic areas of living. By having students study social or life situations, they not only study ways to improve society, but to become directly involved in improvement. While the other one is the core design, which is focuses on the common needs, problems, and concerns of the students. And now let's talk about the approaches to curriculum design, or how would a teacher approach its design. First is the child-centered or the learner-centered approach, which is about shifting the focus of instruction from the teacher or instructor to the learners or children. This shift offers the best experience for the learners because it has them engaged with the instructor and the content and other learners. A learner-centered approach provides a lot of choices to learners. For example, if a particular course involves research, learners should be given choices of topics for research. Second is the subject-centered approach, which emphasis is placed on acquisition, memorization, and knowledge of each specific content area. Within this curriculum structure, a strong emphasis is placed on instruction, teacher to students, explanation, and direct strategies. The third and last is problem-centered approach, which provides a vehicle to achieve the goals and objectives identified in the curriculum. For example, the school believes that a learner should be trained to solve real-life problems that come about because of the needs, interests, and abilities of the learners. All things considered, developing, designing, and implementing an education curriculum is no easy task. With the rise of educational technology and the diverse types of students attending higher educational institutions, these days, instructors have their work cut out for them. But by following guidelines and framework of curriculum development, educators will be setting themselves and their students up for long-term success. Okay, that's all, and I hope you learned a lot about approaches and types of curriculum design. Thank you, and thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Thank you, Ms. Rochelle May Contreras, for the wonderful discussion. Future educators, are you still listening and alive? Please comment down below if you have any questions, okay? I think you were enjoying because I enjoying the discussion. I learned a lot of this. And I hope you also learned for this webinar. And now, for the last topic, which is the curriculum mapping process. Here is Miss Marinel de la Cruz, graduated at Saragossa National High School with Academic Excellence Award with honors.
Pleasant morning to everyone. After determining the curriculum design, the next step to be done is curriculum mapping to effectively implement the written curriculum. When we are traveling for the first time to a certain destination, there's a chance that we might get lost, right? Because we don't know the place yet. So we search and find ways on how we're gonna reach our destination on time. Maps help us in this way. In education, we need curriculum mapping. But the question is, what is curriculum mapping and how does it work? Curriculum mapping serves as the blueprint of what the teachers need to teach, as well as what learners need to learn within the school year. It's a process of collecting and recording curriculum-related data that recognizes core skills and content taught, processes employed, and assessment applied in each subject area and program levels. It's also a visualized timeline that outlines the learning outcomes that results refine the activities substances, aptitude, the characteristic to be gained, the techniques to be utilized, and how the learner's progress to be assessed. It is essential to be done first because it addresses the learning, the lessons redundancy, holes, gaps, and misalignments. Or in short, it directs us where we need to go and help us to be not get lost in our education. At tertiary level, a curriculum map is an instrument used to validate if a match exists between the core program and the content curricular program, or in simply, it ensures that the lessons, for example in science, is integrated with the lessons in mathematics. Let's now tackle about the three essential symbol letters that we're going to use in curriculum mapping process, the L, P, and O. L refers to the learning outcomes about what is essential to the students to know and able to do. It signifies and describes the learning of the learners, such as knowledge, skills, and values, or outcomes achieved in the subject. Thus, it is easy to know if it's relevant. It's like diagnostic assessment, which you will know where your students are skilled and knowledgeable, and you will able to have content of what you need to do and teach for your students to achieve the learning objectives. D. Denotes the practice outcomes. This shows the monitoring and analyzing the performance of the learners to see if it is suitable to their learning ability and skills. This is where the students are molded and refined to gain more knowledge that they must need and achieve. And O describes the ability of the learners to practice to gain a lot of knowledge that may help them to develop and improve. Thus, there is no input and evaluation, but competency is practice. This is where you see if the techniques and approach applied in students is effective or not.
We're now going to do the curriculum mapping process. You need a laptop or cell phone first because we're going to make a matrix or a spreadsheet through Microsoft Excel to create the curriculum map. On the first table of Microsoft Excel, you're going to put the timeline you need to cover, for example, in one semester. Then on the next table, you're going to put the intended learning outcomes, skills needed to be taught, or the objectives. And on the next table, you're going to enter the content areas or subject areas to be covered. And on the next table, you're going to enter and align the name of available resources you're going to use. And on the next table, you're going to enter the teaching learning method to achieve the outcomes or the objectives. And on the next table, you're going to enter and align the assessment procedure and tools to the intended learning outcomes, content areas, and resource. And the next thing you do is you're going to circulate the map among all involved personnel for their inputs. And lastly, you need to revise and refine the map based on suggestion and distribute to all concerned. But if the personnel accepted and agreed to the map, and there's no suggestion and concern, you don't need to revise and refine it more.
Here's the example of general curriculum map for the BSED major in science. We can see in the table that the program outcomes uses codes PO1, PO2, and PO3. PO1 or program outcomes 1 is demonstrate deep understanding of scientific concepts and principles. PO2 is applied scientific inquiry in teaching and learning, while the 303 is utilize effective science teaching and assessment methods. Below that, we can see that it uses the legend L, P, and O, which determine if such subject have accomplishes the outcomes. L stands for learned outcomes, P for practice the learned outcomes, and O for opportunity to learn and practice. Some curricularis describes the curriculum map as a map to success. Why? Because with the use of curriculum map, you will be confident enough as a teacher that the learning outcomes is aligned and achieved. Hence, the students will truly develop the competencies expected to them.
Our goal for this webinar 2020 is to share knowledge, and I am hoping that you are learning. So now, let us begin with the acknowledgement of the participants, guests, and speaker. Thank you to all those who attended in our webinar, Curriculum Planning, Design, Organization, Let's Educate Our Mind. We were thrilled by the attendance we had. We also want to thank our guest, Dr. Faith M. Cuevo, and also our presenter, Mr. Rex Daniel Sardual, Ms. Rochelle May Contreras, Mr. Dave Hossen, and Ms. Marinette de la Cruz. And special thanks to our participants. I would like to introduce to you BSE 2H Major in English. Let's give them a big hand. Thank you for attending. Let us now move on to the awarding of the certificate. The first certificate is awarded to the most handsome and kind speaker of the day, Mr. Rex Daniel Sardual. And the second certificate is awarded to the most loving and caring speaker of the day, Ms. Rochelle May Contreras. And the third certificate goes to the most untouchable speaker of the day, Mr. Dave Hossen. And the fourth and last certificate is awarded to the most gorgeous speaker of the day, Ms. Marinette de la Cruz. Let's give them a big hand. Thank you for attending. In case you were unable to attend or would like to rewatch our webinar, the recording can be viewed at FB group BSE 2H English Major. Before I end this webinar 2020, I would like to leave a short message to everyone. It always seems impossible until it is done. The message once implies that no matter how hard the situation is, don't you ever give up, because giving up is not the key to success, because to one day you wake up, there is a new tomorrow to begin a new life. And once again, thank you for your attendance. We look forward to bringing you even more presentation in the future. Thank you and mabuhay!